Scarlett Montgomery had everything. At least, that's what the world saw. A three-story mansion, nestled in the green hills above Los Angeles. Closets full of silk and diamonds, and her name etched into the invitation lists of every elite gala in California. But behind the marble walls and the soft-spoken house staff, Scarlett lived like a beautifully caged bird, admired, pampered, and completely trapped. She was 24, with porcelain skin, full lips, and a gaze that made people pause mid-sentence. But beauty was a currency she never asked for. It was merely another asset on the Montgomery balance sheet. Her father, Richard Montgomery, was a billionaire in oil and political influence. Her mother, Evelyn, had once been a Broadway starlet, now a socialite of ice and calculation. Scarlett was their only daughter, their perfect doll, kept flawless and clean for one purpose: marriage. Not for love, of course. That was a childish fantasy. Scarlett was being married off to Travis Hale, the son of California's governor. It was a political alliance dressed in white lace. Their engagement had been announced over champagne and forced smiles. Travis was tall, blandly handsome, and carried the confidence of a man who'd never been told no. He touched Scarlett like she was his prize. Not too rough, not too soft, just enough to remind her that he owned her now. She felt numb most days. Spa treatments and fittings blurred into each other. The only thing she truly looked forward to was locking herself in the library, curled up with books about women who lived lives far wilder than hers, women who ran, who fought, who bled and burned. It was on one of those dull, sun-smeared afternoons that the lights in the East Wing flickered, then died. The intercom crackled as the housekeeper announced that someone from the local service had been called. Scarlett barely looked up from her book. Another stranger would enter and be instructed where to go, what not to touch, and be gone by sunset. But this time, something shifted. The knock on the door was firm. When the butler opened it, in stepped a tall man in worn jeans and a dark gray shirt, clinging to his chest. He had skin the color of polished mahogany and arms that looked carved from labor. A tool belt hugged his waist, and his boots carried the dust of real work. His name was Damon. Scarlett glanced at him from the landing upstairs, unseen for a moment. Something about the way he moved, purposeful, calm, like he belonged even when he clearly didn't, made her pulse slow, then speed up. Damon didn't look around in awe. He didn't shrink under the marble staircase, or the chandelier worth more than his annual income. He didn't smile. Instead, when he caught her gaze, because she did step forward into view, he just nodded once. No, yes ma'am. No pretending not to see her, just that look. Bold, quiet, male. The housekeeper led him away, and Scarlett stood there frozen, heart ticking. She felt a jolt she couldn't name. It had been months since anyone looked at her like that. No calculation, no fear, no interest in her name or father. She drifted through the rest of the day half lost in thought. What was it about him? The rough texture of his hands, the stillness in his body, the fact that he seemed real? Later, while walking past the East Wing hallway, she heard the hum of low music, not the classical piano that usually floated through the house, but something grittier, blues. She paused, barefoot, near the door. Damon stood by the breaker panel, sleeves rolled up, humming along to the melody from a small speaker at his feet. He hadn't noticed her. For a moment, she watched. His fingers were strong but careful. There was a rhythm to the way he worked, a kind of honesty she'd never seen in any man around her. The wires bent to his will but gently. She suddenly wished she were a wire. When he finally did turn around, catching her there, she didn't move. He said simply, without blinking, "You need something." She replied, "No. I was just watching." He gave her the smallest flicker of a smile. Not flirtatious, not arrogant, just real. "All right. Well, I'll be done in 20, he said, then turned back to his work. Scarlett walked away, but her mind didn't, and for the first time in a very long time, she didn't feel like porcelain. She felt heat. She felt awake. Damon Carter was not a man of many words. At 28, he had already learned that silence was often safer than speech, especially in a world that liked to remind men like him of their place. He worked with his hands, built things, fixed things, carried weight. It was honest work, and it paid just enough to keep the lights on in his small two-bedroom apartment in South Central. He shared the building with a single mom and two war veterans who argued every Sunday over the Raiders. He didn't care much for rich people, not because he hated them, but because he understood them. He'd worked in enough mansions, rewired enough guest houses, and seen enough glassy smiles to know what was real and what wasn't. But Scarlett Montgomery, she had been different. He hadn't expected her to stand there barefoot like that, watching him work. And he sure as hell hadn't expected the way her eyes followed his hands. Most rich girls looked through him like he was furniture, but not her. She had stared at him like he was something worth understanding. Still, Damon wasn't stupid. He knew better than to fantasize about women like her. That road only led to trouble, or worse. Yet fate, with its twisted sense of humor, wasn't done with them. 2 days later, he got another service request, same address. Something with the pool lights this time. He almost passed it to someone else. But then he didn't. When he pulled up again to that palatial estate, the same butler met him, same cold nod, but as Damon stepped onto the stone path that led to the pool house, he heard a voice behind him. "You came back," Scarlett said, leaning against a marble pillar, her arms crossed. Damon paused, turned. "You called, didn't you?" She tilted her head. "Maybe I did. Maybe I just wanted to see if you would." He looked at her then. Really looked. Not like a technician, not like a servant, but like a man. Her silk blouse was barely buttoned, her hair pinned carelessly, as if she'd stopped pretending to care. Her eyes were daring him to answer the wrong way. He didn't blink. "You trying to flirt with the help now?" he asked, voice low. "Maybe I am," she said, stepping closer. "Maybe I like how you don't bow when I walk in." He smiled, but it wasn't a warm smile. "Don't play with fire, princess," he said. "Maybe I want to get burned," she whispered. But before she could step any closer, a voice cut through the air like a blade. "Scarlett, what the hell is this?" It was Travis. Travis Hale, the golden boy, clean shave, designer blazer, and a sneer that never quite left his face. He walked like he owned every room, and looked at Damon like he was a bug on the windshield of his Porsche. "You is this?" Travis snapped, gesturing at Damon. "The electrician," Scarlett said coolly. "Relax, Travis." Travis didn't relax. He stepped forward, all puffed up ego and shallow masculinity. "You need to go now, man," he barked. "We'll call someone else." Damon held his stare for just a beat too long. "That your call to make?" Damon asked. Scarlett stepped between them. "Stop it, both of you." But Travis wasn't done. His voice dropped to a hiss as he leaned in close to her. "You think I don't see it? That look in your eyes. You want him?" She stared at him. "Hard. I want out of this life, Travis. That includes you." Travis's jaw clenched. For a moment, Damon thought he might throw a punch. But instead, the governor's son scoffed and stormed off, muttering something about trash and money. Damon turned back to Scarlett. "You just made things a whole lot messier," he said. She looked up at him, that fire still in her gaze. "No, I just stopped pretending." That night, neither of them slept. Damon lay in bed, staring at the ceiling fan, spinning shadows across his walls, thinking of her lips, her voice, her defiance. Scarlett sat in her bath, wine in hand, heart pounding like a war drum. Whatever this was, it wasn't over. Not even close. 3 days passed. 3 long days filled with questions neither of them dared to ask out loud. Then, another call came in. Same house. Another electrical issue. This time, in the private wing, Damon hesitated. He knew he should say no. But something stronger than logic, something rooted in his gut, pulled him toward her again. When he arrived, the butler didn't even meet him. Scarlett answered the door herself. "Come in," she said. Her voice soft, too soft. "What's the issue this time?" Damon asked, not meeting her eyes. "Outlet in my bedroom's dead," she said. "I think it's the one behind the dresser." He raised an eyebrow. "The bedroom? Unless you're afraid of silk sheets and bad intentions," she said. He followed her up the marble staircase, each step heavy. Her perfume trailed behind her. Warm jasmine, dangerous. When they entered the bedroom, he took it in with one glance. High ceilings, ivory drapes, a bed that looked like it had never known real sleep. The outlet was indeed behind the dresser. Damon crouched, inspecting it, trying to focus, but he could feel her behind him. Standing close, too close. He heard her voice. Low. "Do you ever think about it?" He didn't turn. "Think about what?" "About touching me." He stood slowly. Their eyes met. "You shouldn't say things like that," he said. "Why not?" "Because I'm not made of stone." "Good," she said, stepping closer. "I'm tired of stone. I want skin." She reached for the belt of her silk robe and untied it slowly, deliberately. The robe slipped from her shoulders like water, pooling at her feet. She stood in nothing but her skin, unashamed, flawless, real. Damon's breath caught. He looked away. "Scarlett, don't do this." "I already am," she whispered. "Touch me, if you're brave enough." He backed up a step, shaking his head. "You're engaged. You live in a world I don't belong to. This would ruin you." She walked toward him, placing a hand on his chest. "No. This would save me." He tried to resist. His hands hung at his sides, fists clenched, every part of him screaming to leave. But then she leaned up, pressed her lips to his neck, soft as a confession, and that was it. The dam broke. His arms wrapped around her, lifting her off the floor. Their mouths met, hungry, desperate, familiar like something ancient. He carried her to the bed, without breaking the kiss. Their bodies spoke louder than words ever could. He touched her like she was something holy, and she clung to him like he was the last real thing in her gilded world. There was heat, yes, but also something slower, something deeper. A tenderness, buried beneath the urgency. Fingers tracing scars. Mouths finding soft places. Breath mixing in the space where loneliness used to live. She gasped his name. He said hers like it was a prayer. Time folded in on itself. There were no walls, no wealth, no wedding arrangements. Just two people stripped of everything but truth. When it was over, they lay together in silence, their skin damp, hearts loud. She rested her head on his chest. "I've never felt real until now," she said. He stroked her hair. "This doesn't end well." "Scarlett, maybe not," she said. "But maybe it begins well. That's worth something." He didn't answer. He couldn't, because in that moment, holding her, he wasn't thinking about consequences. He was thinking about how long he could stay before the world came knocking, and how damn much he wished he could stay forever. The storm hit faster than either of them expected. It started with a whisper, a rumor carried by the wrong mouth, landing in the wrong ears. Scarlett's fiancé, Mitchell Langston, the governor's son, wasn't the type to let things slide. He had been watching her closely, for weeks. The coldness in her kisses, the distance in her voice. Now he had a name to aim his rage at. Damon. Mitchell didn't confront her at first. No. He went to her father. "There's a man," he said. "A low-class technician. He touched your daughter." Silence, then the sound of a glass shattering against the wall. The next morning, Damon arrived at his small workshop in the East District. A black SUV was waiting. Two men stepped out. Suits, earpieces, the kind of men who don't smile. "You're done," one of them said. Damon didn't flinch. Done with what? Work. Life. Future. Whatever you thought you had. Then the second man spoke. We know who you are. Stay away from Miss Whitmore. Or you won't have hands to fix anything with. Damon didn't reply. He didn't argue. He just walked back inside, and quietly closed the door behind him. Within the hour, his website vanished. His number stopped working. Scheduled clients canceled with no explanation. In a single day, he became invisible. Back at the estate, Scarlett felt the chill before she even stepped into the main hall. Her father stood there, waiting. Mitchell beside him, smug. You embarrassed this family, her father said. Do you understand the damage you've done? She raised her chin. I followed my heart. Then your heart is foolish. You think that man cares about you? He saw a rich girl he could play like a violin. He didn't ask me for anything. He didn't have to. Weak men use bodies instead of words. Mitchell added. He's gone, Scarlett. We made sure of it. Her voice cracked then. What did you do? Nothing illegal. Just permanent. Scarlett's knees buckled. But she didn't fall. She wouldn't fall. Not now. You have one chance to fix this, her father said. The wedding is in 10 days. You'll smile. You'll wear the ring. You'll pretend nothing happened. She stared at them both, as if seeing them clearly for the first time. No. Her father blinked. What? No. She repeated. I won't marry him. I won't pretend. And I won't belong to this family. If this is what we are, you don't get to say no. Then throw me out. But I'm done being your perfect little puppet. She turned, walking out. Her heels echoed like war drums across the marble floor. Upstairs, she slammed the door to her room, and fell to the floor, shaking. The silence hurt more than the shouting. She searched everywhere. His number, his website, anything. All gone. Like he had never existed. The only trace left was in her body, in her bones, in the way she couldn't look at silk sheets anymore without seeing him there. The next day, headlines buzzed. Wedding of the year cancelled. Heiress walks away from governor's son. Inside the mansion, her father didn't speak to her. Neither did Mitchell. Her mother wept quietly, over cold tea. But Scarlett didn't cry. Instead, she packed a bag. She wasn't sure where she was going, but she knew what she was leaving behind. A cage of diamonds, a man made of power and jealousy, and a family that only loved her when she was silent. She looked in the mirror one last time before leaving. Not a perfect daughter anymore. Not a bride. Not property. Just a woman in search of something real. And maybe, just maybe, a man who had held her like she was already free. Scarlett had never been to this side of the city. The streets here didn't shimmer with designer lights or smell like imported perfume. They were narrow, cracked, lined with flickering neon signs and walls dressed in graffiti. No one here smiled with politeness. They just survived. She pulled her coat tighter as she stepped out of the car. The driver had refused to go further, mumbling something about not getting paid enough to deal with East Lincoln. That was fine. She didn't need protection now. All she needed was Damon. It had taken her days to trace him. An old receipt in the glove box of her car, a forgotten text from his first visit, a logo on his toolbox she couldn't forget. It led her here, an old auto shop turned electrical workshop, wedged between a pawn shop and a liquor store. The sign was crooked. The lights were out, but she knew he was inside. She knocked. No answer. She knocked again, harder this time. Finally, the door opened. Damon stood there, shirt half buttoned, hands rough with grease and wire dust. His eyes froze when he saw her. You can't be here, he said. I had to come, she whispered. He stepped back, silent. She entered. Inside, the shop was dim, cluttered, full of coils, wires, old circuit boards. It smelled of metal and sweat. And somehow, it calmed her. It smelled like him. I looked everywhere for you, she said. I made sure you wouldn't find me. Her throat tightened. Why? Because I'm not your world, Scarlett. I'm the reminder that yours isn't real. She moved closer. You were the only real thing in it. He didn't speak, just turned away, busying his hands with tangled copper. She placed her palm on his back. I'm not marrying him. I walked away, from all of it. He turned then, eyes darker than before. And you think, that makes it simple, that you can walk in here, say sorry, and it all goes back. No, she said. Nothing goes back. But I came here because I can't go forward without you. He stared at her for a long time. Too long. Then quietly, he asked, why me? She took his hand, placed it on her heart. Because when you touched me, I felt something I'd never felt before. Not just pleasure, not just desire. I felt known. He swallowed. His hand didn't move. She stepped even closer. No barriers between them now. I want to stay tonight, she whispered. Scarlett, don't make me beg. Her coat slipped off her shoulders, revealing a simple dress. Nothing rich, nothing glittering, just her. He looked down, looked away, looked back. His hands found her waist before his mouth found hers. It wasn't rushed this time. It was quiet, gentle, slow. He undressed her like she was sacred, not spoiled. She ran her fingers along his chest, tracing the scars of labor, not violence. When their bodies met, it wasn't about fire, it was about heat that lingered. He kissed her like he was memorizing her. She wrapped herself around him like he was shelter. They moved together, breathless, wordless. And afterward, when their bodies were still, and their skin tangled under an old cotton sheet, she rested her head on his chest, and listened to the sound of a heart that no longer kept its distance. Neither of them said I love you. They didn't need to. Love was in the silence. Love was in the way she reached for his hand in the dark. Love was in the way he didn't let go. They came for her at dawn. Two black SUVs, tinted windows, armed security in suits that screamed money and power. Her father's men. They stormed the street like it belonged to them, like everything did. Scarlett was still in Damon's bed when they knocked to this. No pounded the door. Damon rushed to the window. He didn't need to ask. He knew. Get your things, he said, jaw clenched. She didn't move. I'm not going, she said. Scarlett. No. Eti. Distard tree. So dead. Get tea. He turned. Saw the defiance in her bare shoulders, the fire in her eyes. She wasn't the same girl who cried behind golden curtains and wore designer masks to survive. She belonged to herself now. When they kicked the door open, Damon stepped in front of her, fists raised, but it was useless. Three men grabbed him, shoved him against the wall. She screamed. Another pulled her by the arm. You're coming with us, Miss Whitmore. She kicked and attained, fought. But they dragged her out, into the car, into silence. That night, headlines exploded. Millionaire's daughter caught with local electrician. Love or scandal? Is this the end of the Whitmore-Governor alliance? Who is Damon James? The man who stole a princess. Photos leaked. Blurry. Stolen shots of her stepping out of his workshop. Hair messy. Clothes simple. One image caught them holding hands. That alone set the internet on fire. She was locked in her father's estate for 2 days. No phone, no freedom, only lectures. You've disgraced this family. Her father roared. She didn't speak. You think this man loves you? He'll use you, ruin you, and leave. She stared at him. Maybe that's what you did to Mom. The slap echoed through the marble hall. The next morning, Scarlett put on a white blouse, no makeup, hair down, and walked straight into a TV studio. The host was nervous, the crew tense, but she sat tall. I'm not a hostage of my last name, she said. I'm a woman. I love who I love, and I won't apologize for that. They asked about Damon, his background, his past. She smiled. He's a better man than anyone I've met in my entire life. By noon, the video had over 2 million views. Her father threatened legal action. She smiled again, because while they were screaming, she was moving money. Her trust fund, tied in 20 legal knots, had one loophole, a charity clause. She activated it, created a non-profit, donated 10 million to it, and appointed Damon James as CEO of its technical development arm. 1 week later, James Electric Solutions opened its doors, a startup run from a dusty warehouse, now painted white and blue. Damon's hands still wired circuits, but now they were his own. Men from his neighborhood came asking for jobs. He trained them, paid them, gave them dignity. Scarlett sat at a desk in the corner handling emails, smiling at him between tasks. The world didn't get quieter. In fact, it got louder. More headlines, more attacks. But for the first time, their names weren't whispered behind walls. They were printed, posted, shared. Some cursed them, some worshipped them, but none ignored them. And every night, when the doors closed and silence returned, he would pull her into his arms and say the only truth that mattered. We made it. Not just out of her cage, but into something real. 1 year later, Scarlett stood on a ladder, a screwdriver in her hand, sweat dripping from her forehead, as she adjusted the lighting panel in the hallway of their new office space. She wore denim overalls, a tank top underneath, smudges of paint on her cheek, and a look of pure focus. The girl who once lived in silk and marble now carried tools in her pocket and worked with her hands, and smiled doing it. Damon watched her from the doorway, arms folded, suit perfectly tailored, not a single wrinkle on his black tuxedo. He had just come from a formal event. The city had honored him for his community work, but he hadn't told her the real reason he'd left early. Scarlett looked down from the ladder and smirked. "What are you staring at, Mr. James?" he chuckled. "At my best apprentice." She rolled her eyes. "I wired that panel better than your last 3 hires." "I know," he said, walking closer, tugging gently at the strap of her overalls. "That's why I'm keeping you." She climbed down, standing eye to eye with him now. The hallway was quiet, warm with afternoon sun. "You smell like money and whiskey," she teased, brushing a bit of lint off his lapel. "You smell like electricity and soap. Sounds like a fair trade." He kissed her then, soft, slow, like the world didn't need to rush anymore. Later that night, he blindfolded her. She laughed but let him. Damon led her up the stairs of their apartment building, one hand on her back, the other carrying something small in his pocket. The rooftop door creaked open, cool air brushed her skin. "Can I look?" "Not yet." He guided her a few steps forward, then stopped. "Now." She pulled off the blindfold and gasped. The rooftop had been transformed, fairy lights strung overhead, a picnic blanket spread with candles, wine and her favorite takeout in paper boxes. In the center a velvet box. She turned to him, heart racing. "What is this?" He reached into his jacket, opened the box. Inside, a ring, simple, silver, 1 diamond, sharp and clear. "I don't need a ceremony," he said. "I don't need a stage, just you. Right here." Her throat tightened. "Are you serious?" "Deadly." She took the box, slid the ring on. No tears, just a radiant, breathless smile. "Come here," she whispered. They lay down on the blanket. No walls, no servants, no expectations. Just skin against skin, heartbeat against heartbeat, under a sky full of stars. He undressed her slowly, savoring every inch of her, not as a man taking something, but as someone finally allowed to feel, to claim what was his. She tugged at his tie, then unbuttoned his shirt, kissed the scar on his shoulder from years ago, the one he never talked about. They moved together like they were made for it. No shame, no fear, just need, desire, love. Her nails pressed into his back, his hands tangled in her hair, their bodies arched, tangled, lost in rhythm. When they were both breathless, she lay on his chest, the city glowing beneath them. "Do you ever miss it?" she asked. "The quiet?" "No," he said. "I found something better." She looked up. "What?" You. And above them the stars just kept watching, silent witnesses to a love that had burned its way through gold power scandal, and come out pure.